Hello everyone. I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. This is um this is a pretty short story from r/creepcast, posted 6 days ago by the Reddit user extra_evening 9354, and it's titled "Mama, I'm coming home." And it reads, "I just got a message from my mom. It was very short. Just, can you come home? I'm not feeling well. No details, no punctuation, no follow up. For most people, that would trigger immediate concern, but for me, it felt like someone had reached into my gut and twisted it. I hadn't been back to that house in years, not since I moved out. I turned 18. Even now, after all the distance and therapy and the angry, exhausted explanations I've offered to the handful of people who ever asked about my childhood, going back there felt like willingly walking into a place that had once tried to break me. But she was alone, and despite everything she'd done, a part of me still reacted the way it's always had. Take care of her, keep her calm, don't make her angry, so I packed a bag, drove the 3 hours back, and pulled into the same gravel driveway I used to sprint across barefoot as a kid. The house hadn't changed. The paint still peeled in the same places. The porch lights still buzzed. The windows still had that dull, clouded look like they were tired. Mom greeted me at the door with a weak smile. She looked older than I expected, smaller somehow, like years had pressed down hard enough to fold her inward. Her voice had softened too, though when she said my name I could still hear an old edge underneath, the one that used to make my shoulders tighten automatically. But she hugged me, tentative and fragile, and for a moment I let myself imagine this might be one of those stories where people really do change. She made dinner while I brought in my bag, and the whole time I moved through the house, little flashes kept hitting me. The spot on the wall where she once shoved me hard enough to have my head cracked right through the drywall. A hallway where she grabbed my arm and dragged me across the ground in which she was in one of her moods. The bathroom mirror where I'd quietly cried because crying anywhere she could hear it meant trouble. But it was like every room breathed those memories back to me. She kept moving things on the table, adjusting her napkin, refilling my glass even though it was already full, straining the salt shaker until it lined up perfectly with the pepper. Her hands wouldn't stay still. That alone told me this wasn't just a dinner. She'd been rehearsing something. I tried to keep eating, though. I could hardly taste anything because the silence between us felt too sharp. Finally, she cleared her throat and said, "I'm glad you came. I wasn't sure you'd want to." "I always do," I said, even though it wasn't true in the way she meant. She looked down at her plate the way she used to when she was embarrassed. She put a piece of food around with her fork, then asked too casually, "Do you ever think about when you were younger?" The question punched me straight in my gut. I set my fork down carefully so she wouldn't see my hand trembling. "Yeah," I said, quietly, "sometimes." She nodded like she expected that answer, but her breathing went uneven. "I've been thinking about it a lot lately," she said. "I haven't always been a good mother." A rush of old sensations hit me. The sound of a slammed cabinet, the sting in my ribs, her voice breaking into a growl when she was overwhelmed. The memories felt too close. Like sitting across from her had pulled them up from the floorboards. "You were doing your best," I said automatically, because it was the only script I knew, the safe one. She flinched at that, actually flinched. "No," she whispered, "I wasn't." Something in my chest tightened. She kept her eyes on her plate, her voice barely above a murmur. "I remember yelling too much, grabbing you too hard, getting angry over nothing. I remember you looking at me like you didn't know which version of me you were going to get." I swallowed hard. My throat felt like it was closing. She rubbed her palms together, staring at them like they belonged to someone else. There were nights I'd hear myself shouting, and I don't know, it's like I wasn't fully there. Like something was moving through me faster than I could stop it. And afterward, I'd sit on the floor outside your room and just hate myself. Her voice cracked on the last words. "You were a child. You didn't deserve any of that." I could taste metal in the back of my mouth. My scars tingled under my shirt, like they remembered her hands before I did. She took a shuddering breath. "I know I hurt you. I know I scared you. I know some things just don't heal because time passes. I wish I could explain why I was like that. I wish I could say I was sick or depressed or anything that makes sense. But I don't know what was wrong with me. I'd wake up some mornings and feel like the house was angry. before I opened your door, like there was already something inside me waiting, and she stopped, realizing how she sounded, and shook her head quickly. No, no, I don't mean like an excuse. I just mean like I had all this anger that I didn't not like, that I didn't feel like it was mine. It scared me. I scared me. I stared at her, stunned. She had never said anything like this, not even close. Growing up, she pretended most of it never happened. As an adult, I learned not to bring it up. I didn't know what to do with her, honestly. She wiped her eyes with her sleeve. And you were such a quiet kid. You never fought back. You just folded onto yourself. And I took advantage of that. I hate myself for that. I hate that you must think of me. Of what? I hate what you must think of me. My chest burned. I don't hate you. I said too fast. That made her cry harder. Quietly, her shoulders shaking, even as she tried to hide it behind her hand. I wish I could take it all back, she answered. Every time I scared you, every time I grabbed you too hard, every time I hit you so hard you fell down, every time I cut you or drew blood, every time you flinched when I walked into the room, I see it so clearly now, all the ways I broke something in you, and I don't think I'll ever be able to fix it. The words hit me like someone had driven a knife straight under my sternum. I felt 14 again, sitting on the edge of the same table, stomach twisting, while I tried not to breathe too loudly. I lived in fear of you, I said before I could stop myself. My voice was unsteady. Every day, every night. I was afraid of waking you up from a bender, afraid of disappointing you, afraid of the look in your eyes when you were like that, high, drunk, incoherent. Her face crumbled. But I know you weren't always like that, I added softer. I know you were lonely. I know you were overwhelmed. I know you were trying, even when it didn't look like that. She shook her head, tears streaking down her cheeks. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I didn't say you had it, I whispered, surprising both of us. She froze, then nodded slowly, heartbreakingly. Fair. We sat in silence long enough that I heard the refrigerator hum across the room. She reached for her water glass with trembling hands. Her eyes were red and tired, and she finally met mine. I want to be better now, she said. I want you to feel safe here. I want you to sleep in this house without feeling like you're 10 years old again. I didn't know how to answer to that, because part of me already felt like I was 10 again. Every shadow in the corner was too thick. Every creak in the hallway sounded like her footsteps from back then. My scars ached like old bruises. But I forced myself to nod. Okay. She gave a small, fragile smile. Thank you for listening. I really needed to say all that, and I really needed to hear it, even though it felt like she had reached into my chest and twisted something that had never healed properly. Dinner ended quietly, gently, but the heaviness lingered. The kind of heaviness that sticks to your ribs, the kind that follows you down the hall to your childhood bedroom. For a second, it almost felt healing, not fixed, not forgiven, but acknowledged, and that mattered more than I expected. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak, and we finished dinner in silence. It wasn't comfortable, but it wasn't hostile either. Just the two people sharing a table with too many ghosts sitting between them. She gave me fresh sheets from the old twin bed in my childhood room. Everything was smaller than I remembered, the ceiling lower, the window cramped, the closet door steel wrapped at the bottom. Lying there in the dark, I tried replaying the conversation, telling myself it was good, that something had shifted. But as the house settled around me, old muscle memories stirred. The tension in my ribs, the way my heart sped up whenever I heard footsteps, the sense that someone was watching me even when no one was here. I told myself I was just being home again, just old wiring firing up, just nerves. I must have drifted off at some point, because the next thing I know, something snapped me awake. Not a sound, more like a sensation, a heavy pull deep beneath the surface of my skin. I sat up, confused, and felt something warm trickling down my arm. When I turned on the lamp, my breath caught. My scars were open, the thin white lines I'd carried for years, some from where she'd scratched, some from where she'd grabbed me too hard, some from accidents that weren't accidents, were split open like fresh wounds. Blood seeped through my forearms in narrow rivers. The cuts didn't sting the way they should have. They just throbbed, a slow rhythmic pulse that made my vision blur. More open across my ribs, my shoulders, even the thin ones, behind my knee. It was like my body was remembering everything at once. Panic hit me so hard I nearly stumbled getting to my bag. I grabbed a roll of gauze and tossed it in on by instinct before leaving the apartment. Like some part of me already knew I'd need it. My hands shook as I wrapped my arms, my sides, anywhere blood kept slipping through my fingers. Nothing, no matter how tightly I wrapped them, the stains kept spreading. The house creaked, not the normal old house settling, but something slow and deliberate, like weight shifting from one foot to another. The air in the room thickened, pressing against my lungs. I kept glancing at the doorway, dreading my mother to be standing there with that blank, distant look as she used to get. But the hall stayed empty. When I finished wrapping myself, I sat on the edge of the bed, shaking, trying to breathe through the pounding in my head. I told myself it had to be something rational, stress, old wounds reopening, a nightmare I half remembered, anything but what it looked like. Anything but the thing I used to feel standing behind me when Mom's eyes went dark and she raised her hand like she was being guided. I lay back down, exhausted and terrified, and stared at the ceiling until sunrise. I didn't sleep again. I just waiting for the morning. Waited for the movement in the hallway, waited for some hint that I wasn't losing my mind. Tomorrow, I think, I'll figure out what the hell is happening. But deep down, I already know. The end. Wow. That was pretty good. So there's I'm sorry, let me just say this. Oh, I believe there's a part 2. So it's showing up right here. Yeah, there's a part 2. So I'll read that tomorrow. But that's the end of part 1. I didn't notice it was a 2-parter, but that's okay. I'll read the second part tomorrow. That was pretty good, but I'm debating whether this is like real or like maybe not a true story, but like more of a realistic scary story, like a trauma scary story instead of like a fiction scary story, like a monster scary story. I feel like it's more on the realistic side where the guy's just traumatized, but he said he wasn't having a nightmare or nothing, and he was there till the morning. So I'll see. Part 2, I want to know what happened now. I'll read it tomorrow, but it was pretty good. We'll see. Tomorrow I'm gonna give it a rating. I'm not gonna give it a rating right now because it's not done. But so far I like it. So far it's pretty good. That's the end. If you like the video, just stay tuned for more videos. I post every day except Sunday. I didn't post on Thursday because I had a lot of stuff to do for Thanksgiving. But I'm posting tomorrow and Monday and every day after that. If anybody has some recommended stories, I'll be more than happy to do it. That's it. Guys, have a good night, and thanks for listening if you stay to the end.